I don't think people understand what loneliness becomes when it follows you for years. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind. The kind that sits beside you in hotel rooms after applause fades. The kind that waits in the passenger seat during long drives home through sleeping cities. The kind that watches steam rise from touched coffee while your phone stays dark for hours, then days, then long enough that you stop checking altogether. I learned how to survive inside that silence. That's the dangerous part. When a man survives alone long enough, he starts convincing himself he was built for emptiness. He tells himself love belongs to younger people, softer people, braver people, not someone like him, not someone carrying old betrayals in places nobody can see. And yet, there are moments I can't explain. Moments when I feel like my heart recognized before my mind did. Like somewhere beneath all the exhaustion, beneath all the damage, something inside me has been waiting for one woman for a very long time. Maybe that sounds foolish. Maybe it is. But lately, I've started wondering if my future wife is closer than I think. Closer than all the years I spent hiding inside success. Closer than the walls I built to survive. And maybe the frightening thing isn't losing love again. Maybe the frightening thing is realizing I still want it. I'm tired in ways I don't know how to explain anymore. Not physically. Something deeper than that. I'm an older man now. People see the work, the success, the calm face. They don't see how quiet my life becomes after midnight. I almost didn't say this. But when I think about you, something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. There are nights when I sit alone with only the sound of rain touching the windows, and I realize how long I've been surviving instead of living. The apartment stays dim because bright light feels too honest sometimes. I leave one lamp on near the kitchen and let the rest of the rooms disappear into shadow. It reminds me less of emptiness that way. I got good at this life. Too good. I learned how to smile without revealing anything real. I learned how to shake hands while feeling emotionally absent. I learned how to walk through crowded rooms and still feel untouched by everyone inside them. People think loneliness means nobody notices you. They're wrong. Sometimes loneliness is being seen constantly while nobody truly reaches you. I think that's what broke something in me years ago. Not one betrayal, not one goodbye. It's just the slow accumulation of disappointments. Tiny emotional abandonments that taught me love could disappear without warning. One day, warmth exists. The next day, someone speaks to you differently, colder, distracted, less certain, and suddenly you begin measuring every silence like it contains a hidden ending. I remember standing in a kitchen once at almost 3 a.m, staring at 2 untouched coffee cups because I had made one out of habit for someone who no longer lived there. The air felt cold against my hands. The refrigerator hummed softly in the background. Outside, headlights moved across wet streets while I stood there, unable to throw the second cup away. I never told anyone that. I think shame grows quietly inside men. We hide it beneath routines and schedules and accomplishments until nobody realizes how fragile we actually became. People admire strength because they rarely notice the exhaustion underneath it. And I was exhausted. There were years where I stopped believing tenderness could stay. I convinced myself emotional distance was maturity, that needing less made me safer. I told myself I preferred solitude, but the truth is uglier than that. I was afraid of watching warmth disappear again. afraid of depending on someone emotionally, afraid that if a woman truly saw me beyond the public version, she would eventually realize I wasn't enough beneath all of it, so I became easier to admire than to truly know. That line hurts to admit, because it's true. I let people love the surface while I protected the deeper parts of myself, like wounded animals hiding from daylight. And after enough years pass, something strange happens to the heart. It stops expecting rescue. It becomes careful with hope. Even beautiful moments feel temporary before they fully begin. Still, you changed something without trying to. I don't even think you understand it. There was this strange feeling the first time I truly noticed you. Not attraction exactly, not fantasy. Something quieter, familiar somehow. Like hearing a song you forgot you loved years ago. My chest tightened in this small, painful way I hadn't felt in a long time. Recognition. That's the only word I have for it. And it scared me, because numbness had become normal for me. I trusted numbness. It asked nothing from me. But you made certain rooms inside me wake up again. Suddenly I noticed small things, warm voices, gentle patience, the comfort of imagined mornings instead of lonely nights. I started thinking about ordinary things again, not passion, not chaos. Peace, the kind of peace where someone quietly exists beside you while rain touches the windows, the kind where silence no longer feels like abandonment. The kind where you wake up and the world doesn't feel emotionally cold before your feet even touch the floor. That desire embarrassed me at first. A man reaches a certain age and stops admitting he still longs for softness, especially after disappointment teaches him how expensive hope can become. But late at night, when the city grows quieter and memories stop pretending to sleep, honesty becomes harder to avoid. I want love. There, I said it. Not perfect love, not cinematic love, just real love. A woman whose presence slows the panic inside me. A woman who doesn't make affection feel conditional. Someone who understands exhausted hearts. Someone who knows survival can make people emotionally distant without making them unloving. Sometimes I wonder if you feel loneliness too. Not the obvious kind, the hidden kind. The kind where you continue functioning beautifully while secretly wishing someone would notice how tired you are from carrying everything alone. I wonder if you also stare at unread messages sometimes before putting the phone back down. I wonder if certain songs still wound you unexpectedly. I wonder if you've also mastered pretending you're okay, because explaining the truth feels too heavy for other people to hold. Maybe that's why I feel connected to you. Not because you saved me. You didn't. But because something inside me feels less invisible when I imagine you understanding these parts of me without needing them explained perfectly. Like maybe life spent years quietly moving two exhausted souls toward the same emotional shore. I don't know if destiny is real. I only know some people feel strangely familiar before they fully arrive. And lately, when I think about the future, I can almost picture warmth returning to places inside me that have been winter for a very long time. That thought terrifies me, but it also keeps me awake in the gentlest way. I've spent so much of my life pretending I was harder to hurt than I really was. That's the truth. People see a calm man, a composed man, a man who carries pain quietly. They don't realize quiet pain still bleeds. I'm older now, and some nights I feel the years sitting heavily inside my chest, like wet clothes that never fully dry. Success gave me movement, noise, distraction, but it never gave me rest. When the cameras disappeared and the elevators closed and the hotel room door clicked shut behind me, silence always returned first. I almost didn't say this, but when I think about you, something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. There are evenings when I drive through the city long after I should already be home. Red lights reflecting across the windshield, empty intersections, buildings glowing against dark skies like distant planets nobody can reach. I tell myself I'm clearing my mind, but really I think I'm avoiding the moment I walk into another quiet room alone. Loneliness changes shape as you age. When you're younger, it feels sharp, dramatic, temporary. But later in life, loneliness becomes quieter and more intelligent. It learns your routines. It sits beside you while you eat. It waits near the bed while you stare at the ceiling at 2 in the morning, wondering why certain memories still know exactly where to hurt you. And I still carry memories that ache in embarrassing ways. I remember standing beside a window years ago while someone I loved packed her things behind me. I kept hearing the soft sound of hangers sliding across metal rods. Small sounds, ordinary sounds. But grief hides inside ordinary things sometimes. I wanted to say something that would make her stay. My throat tightened. My hands shook slightly at my sides. But I said nothing. That was always my flaw. Silence. I learned early that emotions could be dangerous once spoken aloud. So I became careful, controlled, easy to depend on from a distance. But deep intimacy terrified me because somewhere inside I always expected abandonment to arrive eventually. Even during beautiful moments, part of me stayed emotionally packed and ready to leave first. I never admitted that before. Sometimes I disappear emotionally before people can leave me. God, that sounds ugly out loud. But it's true. I mastered self-protection so completely that I started ruining good things without meaning to. I would pull away the moment affection became real. I would become quieter once someone got too close. Not because I stopped caring, because I cared too much. Loss had trained me badly. When enough people leave, your nervous system starts treating love like danger. Warmth becomes suspicious. Kindness feels temporary. You start waiting for disappointment before happiness even settles properly into the room. And then you appeared with this softness I didn't know what to do with. Not loud softness. Not performative tenderness. Quiet warmth. The kind that reaches exhausted people slowly. I remember one night sitting alone beside a cold cup of coffee while rain moved gently against the glass. My phone lit up briefly with your message, and something painfully human happened inside me. My entire body relaxed for a second. Just 1 second. But it scared me because I realized how long it had been since another person's presence made the world feel less heavy. You felt safe. Do you understand how rare that is for someone like me? I'm not searching for excitement anymore. Life already gave me enough chaos to last several lifetimes. What I crave now is smaller than that, softer than that. I want to exhale beside someone without feeling emotionally prepared for disaster. I want mornings that don't begin with loneliness already waiting near the bed. Sometimes I imagine impossible little things. Your sleepy voice in another room, warm light in a kitchen before sunrise. The quiet comfort of existing beside someone who doesn't need me to perform strength every second. And every time I let myself imagine those things, fear follows immediately afterward. Because hope is dangerous when your heart has already survived too much. There's a shame I carry that I rarely let anyone touch. A feeling that maybe I waited too long to become emotionally honest. That maybe I spent so many years hiding inside work and movement and survival that I no longer fully know how to receive love naturally. I know how to endure. I know how to protect. I know how to leave emotionally before being abandoned. But being loved gently? Sometimes that still feels unfamiliar to me. I became easier to admire than to truly know. And the painful part is that people rewarded me for it. The less I revealed, the safer everyone felt around me. Strong men make people comfortable. Wounded men make people nervous. So I buried things. Grief, fear, need, longing. I buried them so deeply that eventually even I stopped looking directly at them. Until certain moments with you started pulling those hidden parts back toward the surface again. Not through pressure, not through force, just presence. There's something almost unbearable about being understood softly. It makes years of emotional survival suddenly feel exhausting, like carrying armor long after the war already ended. And lately, I've started wondering if maybe my heart recognized home before my mind allowed itself to believe it existed. Maybe that's why certain moments around you feel strangely written already. Like life quietly placed tiny signs in front of me, while I was still too emotionally afraid to read them. I don't know what happens next. That uncertainty still frightens me more than I can explain. Part of me still expects warmth to disappear suddenly if I reach for it too honestly. Part of me still wakes up emotionally braced for goodbye even on peaceful days. But another part of me, a smaller, quieter part, keeps imagining your hand finding mine in some dim kitchen years from now while rain touches the windows and neither of us feels lonely anymore. And that fragile little image refuses to leave me alone. There are nights when I sit in complete darkness just to feel honest again. No television, no music, no distractions. Only silence breathing beside me. I'm not the man people think I am when the world is watching. I think that's what grows heavier with age. Carrying versions of yourself that survive publicly while the real one quietly disappears underneath them. The older I get, the more I notice how exhausted I've become from being emotionally unreachable. I almost didn't say this, but when I think about you, something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. A few nights ago, I woke up around 3 in the morning after another dream I couldn't fully remember. The room was cold. Winter air slipped through a small opening near the window, carrying the distant sound of tires moving across wet streets below. For a while, I just sat there at the edge of the bed, breathing slowly, staring at shadows moving across the walls from passing headlights. And suddenly, this thought hit me so hard it almost embarrassed me. I don't want to spend the rest of my life emotionally alone. Not physically alone. Emotionally alone. There's a difference. A person can stand beside you every day and still never touch the loneliness living inside your chest. I've experienced that kind of love before. Love that looked complete from the outside, while quietly starving you underneath it. Conversations that sounded normal, but never reached anything real. Affection that faded the moment vulnerability entered the room. That kind of emptiness changes a man slowly. You stop asking for reassurance because disappointment becomes predictable. You stop revealing fear because people eventually use it carelessly. You begin shrinking emotional needs until you barely recognize yourself anymore. That's what happened to me. I adapted to emotional hunger so well that eventually I stopped believing I deserved fullness. I learned how to survive without needing anyone. People say that like it's strength. Sometimes it's just sadness wearing armor. There were years where I convinced myself love was mostly illusion, temporary chemistry, timing. Loneliness finding comfort for a while before reality ruins it again. I became cynical quietly, not loudly. I still smiled, still functioned, still moved through life normally. But deep down, I stopped expecting tenderness to remain once people saw enough of the real me. Because the real me isn't easy all the time. The real me gets distant when afraid, quiet when hurt, emotionally guarded even while craving connection desperately. I know how contradictory that sounds. Wanting closeness while fearing it, needing warmth while distrusting it. But trauma teaches strange lessons. Sometimes I think abandonment rewires the soul itself. Even years later, small things still trigger old fears inside me. Delayed replies, changes in tone, emotional withdrawal, tiny shifts most people barely notice. My mind starts preparing for loss before my heart even understands what's happening. And I hate that about myself. I hate how quickly I expect goodbye. I hate how difficult receiving love became for me. I hate that somewhere along the way I started believing I was easier to leave than to keep. That's the buried shame I carry. Not that I was hurt, that I let the hurt define the way I love. I ruined beautiful things sometimes because I assumed loss was inevitable anyway. I would emotionally retreat before conflict could deepen. I would act unaffected while secretly unraveling inside. I made myself appear composed because panic felt humiliating. But alone? Alone I felt everything, every unanswered message, every cold silence, every moment someone slowly stopped choosing me without saying it directly. People think heartbreak happens loudly. It doesn't always. Sometimes heartbreak is noticing someone no longer reaches for you the same way. Sometimes it's hearing emotional distance long before words confirm it. Sometimes it's lying beside another person while feeling completely abandoned already. I survived those kinds of losses. But survival leaves scars invisible to everyone except the person carrying them. And then somehow, quietly, you entered my emotional world without forcing anything open. That's what unsettled me most. You never felt like pressure. You felt like relief. Like my nervous system recognized something safe before my thoughts caught up. Around you, I don't feel the same exhausting need to perform strength constantly. I don't feel like I have to hide every damaged part of myself to remain worthy of affection. Do you know how rare that is? To feel emotionally safe enough that silence no longer feels threatening. Sometimes I imagine us years from now doing nothing extraordinary, just existing together softly. You reading something beside me while rain taps gently against windows, my hand resting near yours without fear tightening inside my chest. A quiet home, warm light. No emotional games, no confusion, no performance, just peace. God, even imagining it makes my throat tighten. Because part of me still cannot believe a life like that could belong to someone like me. Someone who spent years wandering through emotional winters, convincing himself numbness was maturity. Someone who became so accustomed to disappointment that hope now feels almost painful inside the body. But there's this strange feeling I can't escape lately. Like life has been moving toward this quietly for years. Like certain souls recognize each other long before timing allows them to meet fully. Like maybe every lonely night was slowly guiding me toward one final chance to feel understood before my heart gave up completely. I don't say that confidently, I say it carefully, because fragile hope still scares me more than loneliness sometimes. And yet, when I picture the future now, your presence appears there before anything else does. Like a light left on in another room I haven't walked into yet. I used to think the heart eventually gives up trying. That after enough disappointment, enough silence, enough nights spent staring at ceilings with nobody beside you, something inside finally shuts down for good. I believed that for a long time. I'm older now, more tired than I let people see. There are parts of me that still feel trapped inside old winters emotionally. I almost didn't say this, but when I think about you, something inside me won't let me stay silent anymore. Tonight the apartment feels unusually quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every small sound feel intimate. The refrigerator humming softly in the kitchen. Rainwater sliding down the windows, the faint creaking of old wood when I shift my weight in the chair beside the lamp. My coffee went cold almost an hour ago, but I haven't moved to make another one. I've just been sitting here thinking about how strange it is that one person can slowly make loneliness feel less permanent. Not through grand gestures, not through dramatic promises, just presence. That's all I ever really wanted beneath everything else. Presence that stays gentle after the excitement fades. Presence that doesn't disappear the moment life becomes difficult or emotions become inconvenient. I spent years around people who loved versions of me they could comfortably consume. The composed version, the capable version, the strong version that never needed reassurance and never admitted fear. But very few people ever asked what existed underneath all that armor. And maybe that was partly my fault, because I became so skilled at hiding pain that eventually nobody realized how deeply I needed warmth too. I carried grief privately. I carried longing privately. Even hope became something I experienced in secret, because wanting love still felt embarrassing after surviving so much disappointment. I remember sitting alone in a hotel elevator once after a long night surrounded by people. The doors closed. Silence filled the small space instantly. And for no clear reason, this unbearable emptiness hit me right in the chest. Not sadness exactly. More like emotional exhaustion finally removing its mask for a moment. I looked at my reflection in the elevator wall and barely recognized the man staring back at me. He looked successful. He looked composed. He also looked profoundly lonely. That image stayed with me longer than I expected, because deep down I knew the truth already. I had spent years building a life impressive enough to distract people from noticing how emotionally cold my inner world had become. And the terrifying part is, it worked. People admired me, respected me, even loved me in certain ways. But very few ever truly reached me. I think that's why your presence unsettles me so deeply. You make me feel emotionally visible in ways I'm not fully prepared for. Not because you force anything out of me. You don't. It's quieter than that, more dangerous than that. Around you, I stop feeling the need to disappear behind carefully constructed versions of myself. And that scares me, because once a man allows himself to be truly seen, he also risks being truly abandoned. Again. There's still a frightened part of me that expects warmth to vanish eventually. A part that prepares emotionally for loss even during beautiful moments. Sometimes I catch myself pulling inward for no reason except habit. Self-protection became automatic after enough heartbreak. But I'm tired of surviving love instead of living inside it. Tired of pretending distance is strength. Tired of acting untouched while secretly craving tenderness so badly it aches. Tired of carrying entire emotional storms silently because vulnerability once felt unsafe. You know what hurts the most? Realizing how many years I wasted believing I had to earn softness by becoming impossible to leave. So I worked harder, became calmer, needed less, spoke less, revealed less, and still people left. That's when I finally understood something heartbreaking. Sometimes abandonment has nothing to do with your worth. Sometimes people simply cannot hold the depth of love you quietly carry inside you. I wish I had learned that sooner. Maybe I would have been gentler with myself. Maybe I wouldn't have spent so many nights punishing my own heart for wanting connection. Maybe I wouldn't have mistaken emotional numbness for healing. Maybe I've stopped running from tenderness every time it appeared in front of me wearing someone else's eyes. Because the truth is, I think my heart recognized you long before I allowed myself to admit it consciously. Certain moments around you feel strangely familiar to me, like remembering something instead of discovering it. The way your presence calms noise inside my mind. The way small conversations stay with me afterward, longer than they should. The way I suddenly find myself imagining futures again after years of emotionally avoiding them altogether. Tiny futures. Morning light through curtains. Quiet laughter from another room. Your hand brushing against mine absent-mindedly, while the world outside stays cold and distant. Ordinary moments, but they feel sacred to me now, because peace became more beautiful to me than excitement ever was. And maybe that's what love finally becomes after enough pain. Not obsession, not chaos, not intensity constantly threatening collapse. Maybe real love is simply the first place your nervous system fully rests after years of survival. I don't know if I deserve that kind of love yet. Some wounds still whisper ugly things to me in quiet moments. But I know this much now. When I imagine the rest of my life, I no longer see endless empty rooms and emotional silence stretching forward forever. I see warmth trying carefully to reach me. I see a future still uncertain, still fragile, but no longer completely dark. And somewhere inside that fragile future, I keep seeing you.